I'm Bailey Bates. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. Dozens of residents in Cameron are fed up with destructive flooding happening constantly at their apartment complex. We have followed this story for years. There were draining improvements made in 2023, but residents say it hasn't done any good. Our Adriana Alexander has more on these flooding problems.
Constant flooding has plagued the Williams Trace apartments in Cameron.
I hope they get it resolved, or else they're going to lose a lot of tenants, especially for the downstairs.
Ella Hart, who lives on the bottom floor, is all too familiar with the problem.
I was at dialysis. They said your apartment is flooded. I said, second time around.
When rain poured down Tuesday morning, the water from outside began to enter her unit and eventually reached up to her ankles.
This is the first time this year that it got inside the house.
Hart isn't the only resident dealing with this. Several others had to self-evacuate as water entered their units as well as reached inches high.
The sidewalks, they were covered.
For many others, their cars became undrivable.
I would hope that they would figure out some kind of drainage system.
When we first covered this story in 2023, we spoke to the owner of the property, Stephen Poe, about the flooding. He says the problem was being addressed.
Our option here is to build a big storm collection box, put heavy-duty pumps in there and just pump it into the ditches.
We reached out to Poe again for comment on the continued flooding. He did not respond. According to the maps of the area on the City of Cameron website, the complex is built in a flood zone. Several residents told me they signed a waiver acknowledging that when they moved in, but they say the flooding they're experiencing goes far beyond what they expected.
The drainage system seems like it's not doing any good if we keep getting flooded out.
The mayor told us that because the complex is private property, there is nothing the city can do to help. New questions and no final decision after Killeen City Council met to discuss the future of the city's mold-plagued animal center. Council members heard from city staff and members of the public as they weigh whether to remodel the building or start over. Our Adrian Carbajal was there.
Months after mold forced the Killeen Animal Center to close, city leaders are still trying to decide what comes next. The city bought the building for nearly $1.8 million, but officials say major problems began only 2 years later. Tuesday, city staff told council the building was never designed to withstand the daily washdowns required for an animal shelter, allowing moisture to build up over time.
So at the time we thought, okay, we found a solution. We've been able to house additional pets. We thought we were in good shape, and then at that point, clearly when we saw the mold, we're doing something wrong, so we had to stop.
Testing in May confirmed the presence of mold, and the city spent about $44,000 on remediation, which is now complete. Now, officials say they plan to hire an architect to determine whether the building can be remodeled or if other options make more sense.
Is it cheaper to do an addition just for kennel space in the back than it is to force the existing space to work for kennel space specifically? We want to know what those options are, what the costs involved are before we make any decision. And that's what we'll bring back to you.
Some council members question whether it's worth investing even more money into the building or whether the city should sell it and build a new animal shelter.
I have a concern about any additional funding being approved at this time unless we have some serious positions in place for council oversight on those dollars.
This could become a money pit if not done right, not done correctly. And I'm just want to be cautious about before we start committing large funds that we evaluate all options.
City staff estimates the building's purchase, remediation, and proposed renovations would total about $3.45 million in total.
Well, no vote was taken during the meeting, and for now, the city will move forward with hiring an architect to study the building and present options to council before leaders decide whether to remodel the current facility or build something new. Those are your headlines from Central Texas.